The Texas Rangers won it all for the first time ever in 2023. But what comes next for fans now that their biggest dream ever has been accomplished? We're talking about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 10 seasons, including all 5 as the founder and host of this show. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into today's episode, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, this is coming towards the end of the year, and I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a year in review and just kind of a big picture look a couple months later, nearly 2 months later, after the Texas Rangers won their first ever World Series title, and see how, check in, see how we're all doing, how we're still feeling. Still feeling good? I'm still feeling pretty darn amazing. I mean, I am still watching highlights of the Rangers World Series games. Literally no sports moment has brought me like extreme sadness at all. There's just been, it feels like nothing at all has gone wrong. Even when Mitch Garver signed elsewhere, even if Jordan Montgomery signs elsewhere, I'm just thinking, oh, okay, that happened. That's fine. The Texas Rangers are reigning World Series champs, and my greatest sports dream, my one true main sports dream, came true. And if you're listening to this on the week between Christmas and New Year's, chances are you probably feel the same way as well. You're a real diehard, a real Rangers head, a real lifelong diehard Texas Rangers fan. And I don't know about you, but I don't really know what to do with myself after the Rangers won the World Series. I mean, there is just always this sports heartache inside all of us, of all of the many things that have gone wrong over the years, and I just don't really know what comes next. And I've kind of looked at some other fan bases and how many teams have won the World Series, and still watching those highlights of every single World Series game. The replay of Game 1 of the World Series that was on MLB Network the other day, just sat there and watched it. I said, oh, there's some other sports games on, but right now the Rangers Game 1 is on again. I would like to relive that. I would like to watch the highlights of that and pretend like I don't know exactly what's going to happen, like it wasn't one of the greatest baseball games of all time, like I didn't already know that it was that. It's just an absolute joy to watch. I've watched that Adolis Garcia home run and the Corey Seager home run probably at least 200 times each since they happened. 200 might be a conservative estimate. Same with pretty much every moment from that World Series run that is just immortalized forever. And I think it all snuck up on us so quickly. I mean, basically year 1 of this new era. I mean, maybe you could call it year 2 because it's year 2 of Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, but this is year 1 of Chris Jung being in charge, and of course year 1 of Bruce Bochy. And this championship feels like it felt ahead of schedule, because this quick rebuilds usually don't work all that well. And there have been a lot of teams that have won the World Series in my lifetime. For reference, I was born in March of 1994. So the 1995 season was the first ever World Series I was alive for. So I went back and looked at all the teams who have won a World Series since I've been born, since I've been alive. And there are 15 teams. So literally half the league has won a World Series since I have been alive. And only 6 of those have won multiple. And at some points, it feels like those are the most tortured, most angry online fan bases that I've seen around here. I mean, granted, there are A's fans that definitely clearly have it the worst of their team possibly being moved. But these teams that have won World Series after World Series after World Series in my lifetime are still just, it feels like they're not as happy as they should be, in my opinion. Not to judge anyone's happiness or, tell anyone what to feel, but I kind of worry about becoming like one of these teams. I mean, the Yankees have won 5 World Series in my lifetime. The Red Sox have won 4. The Giants have won 3. And the only other teams with multiple are the Braves, Marlins, and Cardinals. Everybody else has 1. Yes, including that team down south. They only have 1 legitimate World Series ring. But I digress. Just as many as the Texas Rangers. But to me, some of the happiest fan bases are the ones that immediately went in the gutter after the World Series. They got their 1, and that was it, and that was all they needed, and they have been extremely content to just watch highlights of that World Series run ever since. I'm talking about Royals fans. I'm talking about Nationals fans. I'm talking about, Cubs fans. Maybe not as much Cubs fans or Angels fans or even D-backs fans. That one's been a little while. Philly fans are always generally pretty angry about a lot of things. But you would think that one of these teams that would be just content to watch their World Series highlights and be very happy with that is, the Dodgers. And the Dodgers fans, I feel like, not to speak for an entire fan, but I feel like as a team that has won so much in the regular season, has been one of the best teams consistently, basically every year since 2010. That's 14 seasons, basically, maybe just a decade. They have been consistently 95, 100 wins, pretty much every year, winning the NL West. And it is a fan base that is not satisfied with a lot of different things. They are not satisfied with just the 1 World Series in 2020. They feel like, at least Corey Seager talked about, or it's been talked about with his opinion on that 2020 World Series being not quite a real World Series because it was different. I view it as perfectly legitimate. The circumstances were a little different of that season, a 60-game season versus 162. Obviously, it was the COVID season, and there was a whole lot going on, and everything was weird and different, just because the world was weird and different then. But I feel like all of those championships that were during 2020, I mean, they still feel just as legitimate to me as any other championship. But that's a team that at least an ownership group, a front office that is not satisfied. It feels like they're failures after winning a World Series in 2020 and winning 95 or 100 games basically every year, even this year, which felt like it was going to be a down year. And so here they go and spend $1 billion on 2 players in Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and trade for Tyler Glasnow and trade for Manuel Margot, and maybe they're even trading for Shane Bieber and Emmanuel Clase. They've even been rumored to be in on them, but it's just never enough with the Dodgers, and I worry that maybe Rangers fans might also become entitled. Not that that's necessarily the worst in the world, but for me, I feel like that probably won't happen for a lot of us diehards, a lot of us who saw so many horrendous years, so many horrible losses, so many painful, awful moments, and years of just downright irrelevancy. For me, nothing else is going to come close to the Rangers winning the World Series in 2023. Not that I want them to immediately go in the tank like the Royals and have like very little hope for the future, or the Nationals as well, who just pretty much immediately went in the tank right after like 1 World Series. That's it. We're done. We're good. Not that I want that, but even if, worst case scenario, it does come to that. But again, I've talked a million times about how this Rangers team is set up to contend for the long haul and to be very good for several years, and the future looks so incredibly bright, especially with just the lineup alone. But I feel like no one has been able to say a single thing to me at all that would bother me sports-wise since the Rangers won the World Series, and I'm really hoping that it never changes. No matter who is giving the Rangers crap, who is trying to give me crap for being a Ranger fan, I'll be like, Rangers won it all in 2023. That was... I don't need anything else. I am content. I am satisfied. Maybe that's a loser mentality, but you know what? The Rangers have been losers for all my life, and for just 1 year, my biggest sports dream ever came true. Can we have a look at the future of this Ranger team, what it means for the legacies of these young players already having a championship and looking for even more with this Rangers franchise? Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So you can go check out the Rangers' odds to win it all again in 2024. I believe last time I checked, they had the 5th best odds, which are behind the Dodgers and the Braves and the Astros, other teams who have won World Series and are not satisfied with that. The Rangers are not satisfied either. And if you think that those odds are way too low, go check it out at FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Ranger first listen every single day. On tomorrow's episode, I'll be back with Sully recapping this year and what we learned from the Texas Rangers winning it all in 2023. Now, this Rangers team has a lot of young stars, a lot of guys who I think are going to spend many, many years here. Not just the younger guys, but obviously Corey Seager signed a 10-year contract. Marcus Semien signed a 7-year contract. And there are a lot of young guys who are going to be around for quite a while, including Evan Carter and Josh Jung, both rookies last year. I mean, Evan Carter will maintain rookie eligibility in 2024, where he will be presumably the favorite for the AL Rookie of the Year. If he's not, then I don't know who could possibly be ahead of Evan Carter, a guy who hit 3rd in the Rangers World Series and pretty much almost every game for their entire playoff run as a freshly turned 21-year-old. And that's just incredible that there are so many of these young guys who are going to be around for such a long time to, really kind of climb up the ranks in terms of Rangers and DFW sports Mount Rushmore. I mean, for me, as someone who was born in 94, I didn't get to experience a lot of the the joy of the young Cowboys, or the back when the Cowboys were actually good, of that core coming up and winning together and winning multiple championships together. They're the only franchise of the core 4 that have won multiple championships. I mean, the Stars had a prolonged run and they won their championship back in the 90s, or 99. And then Dirk had his one championship in 2011. But that Dirk run was like the pantheon of I think most people my age who were just general Dallas sports fans. That was the big one, because he was our guy. He was here for 21 years. He did bring the first championship Dallas had seen in 12 years to this city. And it had been exactly 12 years since Dallas had seen a Major 4 championship in their city, from 2011 to 2023. And that's a prolonged gap. There are a lot of kids nowadays who, I think Corey Seager will definitely be up on their Mount Rushmore of favorite DFW athletes, because as good as the Mavs have been for several years, the Stars even made it to the finals a few years ago, and the Cowboys are, well, always kind of a big deal. The Rangers are the one who won it all. The Rangers are the one who brought it home. Adolis Garcia, Corey Seager, Evan Carter, Josh Jung, Nate Eovaldi, all those guys are going to be way up there, I think, on this next generation's Mount Rushmore of favorite Dallas athletes, and I think they should be. In terms of just young guys in this area who have won championships and stuck around for a long time, there aren't that many, because there haven't been that many championships in the last 20 years of Dallas sports. There was Mike Modano, who I don't think was particularly young, definitely not 21 years old when he was playing a part of the Stars winning the World Cup, the Stanley Cup in 1999. Dirk had been here a long time when he won it all in 2011, and the triplets of Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin, they were a little younger, but it's been 30 years basically since they won a championship, and they were not 21 years old when they were winning it all for the first time. So I think Evan Carter, it's way too early to be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway because I have such incredibly high expectations for Evan Carter. Like, he has incredibly high expectations for himself. I mean, one of the first things he said after the Rangers won it all was, "Job's not finished. We want more." And it's a great mentality for players to have. It's a great mentality for, everyone who is actually directly a part of the organization, of Chris Jung and Bruce Bochy and, all the scouts and coaches and front office and even ownership and players as well. Having that mentality is great. But for me, one is plenty. One is awesome. One is great. But if Evan Carter sticks around here for a long, long time and becomes anywhere near as great as I'm hoping he can be, which I don't even want to put a ceiling on how good that dude could be. And same with Josh Jung. I'm still expecting huge things from Josh Jung throughout his career. I'm not gonna begrudge him if him being an all-star starter and should have been a Silver Slugger finalist and should have been a Gold Glove finalist and should have finished higher in the Rookie of the Year voting and starting every game of the playoffs and helping the Rangers win their first championship ever. If that's his best season ever, then awesome. Great. That's the best first round pick the Rangers have made in decades. It has been so long since they had, or I guess he's a second round pick. So best second round pick the Rangers, second round pick the Rangers have probably ever made. We'll see obviously how things turn out, but that's not setting him up for a high bar to clear. The Rangers they've been bad with first round picks for the last 25 years. They've been even worse somehow with second round picks. So Evan Carter, if he gets like a 5 WAR season next year, that might be the highest WAR from any second round pick by the Rangers in 20 plus years. So yeah, not exactly setting up the sky is the ceiling, or the sky is in the next universe expectations for Evan Carter, even though I do have those. But basically comparing him to other second round picks, it's not a high bar to clear. But we haven't even gotten to Wyatt Langford, who has not made his major league debut yet, and who big things are also expected of him. Big things are expected of a lot of guys, but I mean, this playoff run, I mean, what Evan Carter did as such a young kid, I feel like he's going to be just maybe number one in some people's, by the time it's all said and done, he might be one of people's just most beloved DFW athletes. Like, he has got that kind of personality, that kind of potential, and he has already started off his career in the best way humanly possible by being absolutely outstanding as a 21-year-old, coming in to be the little savior of this team. He wasn't the only reason they won it all, but he was a big part. And he was a big part of giving this team life when they needed it most down the stretch after the most brutal regular season sweep that I have ever seen, or probably ever will see, from a team that needed at least one win in that series against the Astros so badly. And then he comes in and loses his first game and then boom, rattles off a winning streak that I feel like that winning streak that started with a couple of games against the A's and finished out in in Toronto against the Blue Jays. Like, that is, I feel like when we look back at this World Series run and this season in general, for me, that's something that always sticks in my mind. And Evan Carter was such an incredibly huge part of it. I feel like it is just the start of what is hopefully a long and storybook career for Evan Carter, becoming the face of this generation in DFW sports, with hopefully many more rings to come. Coming up, we're going to look a little bit at where this championship ranks among DFW best ones, and if fans should really still be hungry for even more championships, or if that brings a little bit more misery. Coming up right after this word from our sponsors. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. We'll be back on Monday's show, back in the new year of 2024, talking about 24 things that give me hope for 2024. I will have that pre-recorded because I am going to LA to go see the Rose Bowl as a very kind and generous Christmas present from my brother. So hopefully no news breaks in between now and then. So that I'm not behind schedule and out of town, unable to record an episode. But I'll have some pre-recorded, some good content for you to start your 2024 off right. Now, one of the great things about the Rangers winning their World Series, besides the Rangers won the World Series, is that the methods they used to get there, the methods they used to, rebuild this team and make up for many years of mediocrity and bad decisions, from basically 2017 to 2020, There were not a whole lot of great decisions made, not enough, in my opinion, resources poured into the team, and just a lot of bad player development and drafting, and bad luck with some guys who had really bright futures but just turned out to be pumpkins, or just fell off a cliff, or just bad injury luck, or whatever. Like, I mean, talk about the Prince Fielder for Ian Kinsler traded, and the Mr. Iron Man has a neck injury that ends his career 2 years later, or Jurickson Profar being the number one can't miss prospect in all of baseball, and then injuries completely derail his career, and whatever the heck happened with Norm Mazara, one of the most can't miss prospects of the last 10 years, just suddenly becoming bad. The Rangers caught some bad breaks and made some bad decisions along that time, but their decisions to do an accelerated rebuild, it is not something that is easy. Otherwise, way more teams would be doing it. It is not something that happens frequently, because often you need a big commitment to winning from ownership. You have to have the right backing behind it. You got to have a smart general manager to make enough deals on the fly to kind of supplement a fast rebuild with some big spending in free agency, and not only big spending, but spending on the right players, which I've talked about ad nauseum of how difficult it is to assess which players in free agency are worth those big contracts. Not that they shouldn't all be getting them, because it kind of drives the market up, the market value up, and yada, yada, yada. We're not going to get into the economics of players here at this point. But they did make some risky decisions. I mean, spending $325 million on Corey Seager, obviously great investment. I mean, spending $175 million on Marcus Semien felt kind of safe, but also quite a few years for a player who is getting up there in age. And obviously spending big on Jacob deGrom, they were clowned mercilessly for that. And for the rest of time, forever, it does not matter. Even if Jacob deGrom literally never throws another pitch for the Texas Rangers, it does not matter. Because it worked. Because it worked. Their grand plan, their grand... well, maybe that's not the best word for it. The overall design, the scheme, the future vision of we're going to turn this team from a 100-loss team to a World Series contender in 2 years, basically. And they were so sure of themselves. They were so full of themselves. This whole front office, this whole organization was so confident in itself and sold itself so well to the Corey Seagers and the Marcus Semiens and the Jacob deGroms and the Bruce Bochy's. And they did it. They made it work. So none of these decisions that maybe looked questionable at the time, like the Aroldis Chapman trade. Oh, Cole Reagans has turned out to be this absolutely amazing superstar. Cool. Great. Awesome. Love that for him. That's awesome for him. I hope he's amazing. I hope he thrives. Oh man, Rangers traded for old Max Scherzer, and they dealt Luisangel Acuna, and he might end up being amazing. Oh, old Scherzer is hurt, so wow, that's so dumb of the Rangers. Cool, awesome, don't care. Hope Luisangel Acuna is amazing, but it doesn't matter. Oh no, the Rangers traded so many good prospects for a few months of Jordan Montgomery and mediocre Chris Stratton. I mean, Chris Stratton isn't even that good. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Forever. No one can say anything to you as a Rangers fan right now. For the rest of time, all of those moves are smart. It does not matter what happens with whatever prospects were traded in any of the deals of the players who got the Rangers to their first World Series championship and won their first World Series championship. None of it matters forever, in perpetuity, for all time, no matter how it works out for any of those prospects or those free agent signings. It is a success forever. Because the whole goal of this entire fast rebuild, actually giving a crap about how good the baseball team is, building a whole new stadium, building the everything that they have been working for since they decided to turn this thing around in 2020, all of those goals are achieved with this one ring. Now, that doesn't mean that ownership and the front office and the players and the coaching staff and everybody else doesn't want to win more. But because of this ring, because of this trophy, because of this run, all of those things will make your team look smart. You won forever. That is the ultimate end-all, end-of-discussion card. My team won a ring. They did it. We got our moment. And not only did they get a World Series, which would have been fine. I mean, as long as I've been a baseball fan, I mean, all I wanted was a World Series. Oh, does it matter if it's, in dramatic fashion? Does it matter if you got to slay the biggest giants, the most hated teams to get there? It didn't matter if nobody watched it, or it was an ugly World Series, or you just scraped by the skin of your teeth, stumbled into the playoffs, and caught every lucky bounce on the way down. It did not matter. But that wasn't the case. The Rangers had a great run through the playoffs, a great run on the road, created history of 11-0 on the road in the playoffs, something that I don't think we'll ever see again. And not only did they have a 7-game thrilling back and forth series with their most hated rival and the villain in all of baseball in 7 games to go to the World Series, but they also had an all-time great World Series Game 1 that will be shown and remembered forever for those 2 iconic home runs from Corey Seager, from Adolis Garcia. For all time, that is ours. We will be seeing clips and replays of that in every October. It will be right up there with the David Freese home run, with the David Freese triple, with the everything else that happened in that 2011 World Series, which we can now go back on and look back at and laugh and smile and think, haha, those demons can't hurt me anymore because I got mine and it doesn't matter anymore. We even got to see Adrian Beltre hold up the trophy and smile and get to be a part of that moment, which I swear is just one of my favorite parts. One of about a billion different things that are my favorite part. I mean, it changes about every single day of, oh, this was the best part of the Rangers winning the World Series. Oh, no, actually, this was best. No, all of it was the best forever. And for all time, forever, in perpetuity, the Texas Rangers won their World Series, and they are set up for many more. So, one of the most prescient things that Sully has said. I know Rangers fans, you have your beef with Sully, which he earned by being very wrong about the Rangers, which I will remind him of forever, because the Rangers are World Series champs, of how little he believed in this team at the beginning of the season, even as late as the playoffs. Even the ALCS, he wasn't quite sure about your Texas Rangers, who are the World Series champs. One of the things that he said the night that the Rangers won the World Series, when I hopped on his podcast, was, for the rest of time, whenever the Rangers, or whatever other sports team, but mainly if the Rangers, lose it in extra innings, or have some heartbreaking playoff loss, or even miss out on the playoffs, then you'll think, oh man, I wanted that one. But hey, it's not a culmination of every bad thing. Every time something bad happens to the Rangers now, it doesn't have to be everything bad has happened to the Rangers is continuing. It's, oh no, my team's never going to win. No, they will never be a part of those teams who never won a World Series. They will never be on that list ever again because they have this. And so for the rest of time, if you're anything like me, you'll just be going back, and anytime your sports team makes you a little bit sad, anytime the Rangers, say they miss out on re-signing Jordan Montgomery, which I really hope they don't. I hope they can just bring him back, because in my books, that would be a perfect offseason as reigning champs. So just bring him home. Bring old Monty home. You can just go back and be comforted with this World Series run and all the members of this team for all time, no matter how big or small a part they played, because it was such a tight margin to make it to the playoffs, because it was such a tight margin to make it to the World Series in the ALCS. Every single little thing that anybody did on this team all year long to contribute to even one win made the difference forever. The most minuscule thing of 21 games of Sandy Leone, JP Martinez, Austin Hedges. I mean, everybody up and down this roster, pretty much every single one, made some kind of an impact on winning the World Series. And forever, all 31 players who pitched a single game for the Rangers this year, all 48 position players, I guess just all 48 players who contributed in any capacity to the Texas Rangers big league squad at all. All of them, all 48, forever World Series heroes, World Series champs, Texas Rangers legends for all time, because this was an all-time great World Series, an all-time great moment, and something that has healed every single base wound that baseball has ever given me. And man, if I ever stop enjoying it, please just take me out back and smack the bejesus out of me, because this was one of the greatest things to ever happen to any sporting fan of the Texas Rangers. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy Texas Rangers World Series baseball.